This project in which I worked as a postdoctoral researcher is basically about exploring the transnational link between Britain and Middle East. This transnational link was about Shia Islam, while other people in this project were speaking about Iraqi and Iranian religious establishments and their influence in everyday life of Shia Muslims. My job within this project to look at the South Asian Shia Muslims living in Britain and how they basically take influence or get into a dialogue with meta-narrative of global Shia Islam, and how they reconcile with the fact of their own local South Asian distinct identity, which is, South Asian is a broader term, so they will be more like Punjabi or Urdu speaking or Pashtuns or Hazaras. So I was exploring their lived experience of Shia Islam in London. I conducted this field work for some months in London, and I was part of a greater team. So we have done first ever, I believe, fantastic ethnographic research on Shia Islam in Britain from year 2014 to year 2016. So I am an old-fashioned anthropologist, so I won't do the slides because I think that kills the purpose of a seminar that is more than 40 minutes. So I will read one piece out of the greater research that we conducted as a team. So I will begin with what one of my research participants said to me when I asked him, tell me about the administrative affairs of Hussainiya, where you have been going for many years of your life. Now this is what he said. He said, and I quote, this sacred institution, this South London Hussainiya. Now, I will not name any person or any Hussainiya with its original name. So when I say South London Hussainiya, I mean a broader, one of the many Shia organizations, establishments, mosques, and Hussainiyas. This South London Hussainiya, he said, is the best Hussainiya in London. It was built by our ancestors, our parents and grandparents. And I know I don't want to enter in this building. It hurts me to see how some people, in order to have control over this institution and its resources, are twisting and abusing the very fundamental philosophy and teachings of Shia Islam. I regret to share, but one of the present administrator of South London Hussainiya has publicly said that Kama Zani, the self-flagellation by hitting one's head with a large knife, that Kama Zani only started 100 years ago. And hence, it's a bid'ah, an innovation, and has no place in 12 Shia Islam. Can you believe that the administrator was twisting the Shia history in order to legitimize his monopoly and control over South London Hussainiya? He was doing Benjamin Netanyahu on us. Now, in those days, when I interviewed this person, Benjamin Netanyahu, the infamous president of Prime Minister of Israel, he said that Hitler only committed genocide of Jews because Mufti of Palestine asked him to do so. It was 2014 or 15 when he said this nonsensical statement. So Kaleem is saying that the administrator of London Hussainiya is doing Netanyahu on us, because he is saying that we as Shia should not be doing Kama Zani. We don't have any power on religious scholarship and backing of any establishment, but we practice Islam by showing our love for Ahlul Bayt, which is in our hearts, and we do it by doing matam, self-flagellation. Now, the South London Hussainiya is one of the oldest sites of Shia Islamic Center and mosque in South London. It attracts all devotees from various backgrounds like Punjabi, Urdu-speaking Hazaras, Sindhis, Pashtuns, Indians, Afghanis. Over the last 7 years or so, South London Hussainiya has become the arena of debates between two rival groups of Shia Muslims of South Asian background who live in London. And they are competing for each other over sort of control over the organization. The building of South London Hussainiya has become the most charged spaces for debate and contestation over the very definition of what is the true, authentic, and real practice of commemorating Ashura. So much so that these two groups have entered into a legal battle with each other. Now, this article, this talk will present the ethnographic accounts and complex but often negotiated nature of ritual commemoration of Shias among Shias of South Asian origin. And the debate will be what they understand that what should be the true spirit of Shia Islam. This talk is about to establish that such contestation and debates are nothing new, but a continuity of South Asian Shia tradition of defining and reforming Shia practices by tracing their history, genealogy, and current dynamics of South Asia. It presents details of schism and friction between Shia Islam in South London, Oceania, and their origin and embeddedness in the historical context of the development within Shia Islam in South Asia, and emphasizes the religious, political, ethnic, regional dynamics of Shia Islam and how they are reproduced in daily life of the followers from South Asian background. The aim of this talk is to elaborate the importance of history of divergent opinion, the role of external influence, and the continuity of same patterns among various groups of London-based Shia Muslims. Adding into existing literature on South Asian Shia Islam, I argue that the debates that were historically limited to the circle of ulama once in history have become a common topic among most of the practicing Shias in public spaces as a result of post-revolutionary Iran's scholarly influence over Shia communities throughout the world. So what ulamas would talk, now a common man can talk because of the growing interest in learning about Islamic scholarship within Shia Muslims. The article gives ethnographic account of contested nature of expression of being Shia in London, which manifests itself at the time of ritual commemoration of Ashura every year during Muharrum, the first month of Islamic calendar. It shows different groups of Shia Muslim of South Asian background and how uniquely they are asserting their way of commemorating Ashura. The transnational networks have the backing of one marja or another, whether a charismatic or independent one like Al-Khawi Foundation, or the London-based representative of Ayatollah Sistani, or Islamic Center of England, or Shiraziyun in London, or there is a variety of marjas and sources of learning in London from many various Shia backgrounds of Middle Eastern origin. Now, what is happening that these marjas and their South Asian affiliates groups, they become a medium of arbitration, authentication, and certification for the permissibility or impermissibility of South Asian rituals and ways for adherents to perform Shia commemorations. Now, I strongly maintain, and I emphasize on this, that Shia Muslims of South Asian background in London are not the passive recipient of the decree of these marjas. Rather, they are individuals and groups who exercise their own agency in detesting the hegemonic discourses disseminated by religious authorities from Middle Eastern background. So I will benefit methodologically from historical and comparative analyses and analysis of historical transformation and development within Shia Islam in South Asia that delivers a context in which an ethnographic exploration of contemporary affairs provides a holistic understanding of the phenomena. This was empirical research, as I said, I conducted in 2 years, 2014 to 16. One contribution of ethnographic research with London-based Shia Muslim of South Asian background is that it redresses the balance of the dearth of literature on this issue in anthropology, in religious studies, in Islamic studies, and in social sciences in general. The overwhelming majority of available literature on Shia Islam in South Asia deals with Shia populations who are located in Pakistan or India, with very few exceptions, and less is written for Shia Muslims living in Britain or other parts of Western Europe. For ethical reasons and keeping in mind the atmosphere of charged social situation, I am not going to reveal any names, and I will be using pseudonyms. Now, this article begins with discussing the history and evolution of contestation with Shia Islam in South Asian context, and then traces its genealogy and continuity in London until today. It is pivotal to contextualize the present power struggle at South London Hussainiya and its roots in historical experience of Shia Islam in South Asia. The presence of Shia Muslims of South Asian origin in London is a result of their migration from 1960s onward, mainly from India and Pakistan, exploring the historical trajectory of the formation of Shia identity in South Asia and how local and global factors influence the formation in past. It is instrumental in understanding the formation of present. Looking at the history and developments and transformations within Shia Islam, it is essential for understanding the patterns of contestation that South Asian Hussainiya has recently experienced. And this is what I call the genealogy and continuity. So we will go through a brief history of Shia Islam in South Asia. The first establishment of Shia Islam in South Asia took place during brief rule of Ismaili Shias, 1965 to 1005, in the region of Multan, which is currently a southern part of Punjab province in Pakistan. And those Ismaili small kingdom was overthrown by Sultan Mahmud of Ghazna. 6 centuries later, 12th Shia Islam emerged on the social and political landscape of South Asia when Mughal Emperor Humayun, while he was defeated by forces of Sher Shah Suri from northern India, he took a refuge in Safavid's court in Persia when he lost power in Delhi. With the support of Shia Safavids, Humayun was able to retake Kandahar and then rest of North India. Humayun brought members of Persian aristocracy and clergy with him, and the Mughal court, Mughal language, Mughal culture and religion of 16th century India became under Persian influence for the first time after Humayun took his throne back. But in South India, a strange parallel development was happening. So Qutb Shahi dynasty from 1512 to 1683, it maintained a close relationship with Persia, and Muharrum procession took place in southern Indian cities during 16th century. This dynasty was overthrown by orthodox Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, who declared Qutb Shahi Sultan that he is an ally of Persia, hence an opponent of Mughal Empire and its friends. Shia Islam did not vanish completely from South India with the end of Qutb Shahi dynasty. However, a sizable Shia minority still lives in the city of Hyderabad. In North India, Shia Islam rose to prominence with the beginning of decline of Mughal Empire. Saadat Ali Khan, a descendant of Shia family from Persia and a high-profile Mughal governor, established the Awadh state in North India, present-day Lucknow. The ruler of Awadh state started employing Shia ulama from Persia and Iraq in their courts, and these ulama brought the Usuli tradition of practicing Shia Islam with them, along with Persian influence. Thus, the influence of Iranian ulama among South Asian Shias in general and among those living in London is not a recent phenomenon and cannot be limited to post-revolution Iran. Though that post-revolution Iran has expedited mobilization of Shia Islam throughout the world. Yet in South Asian history, the encounter with Persia is nothing new. It is centuries old, and it is always two-way and going on, not only intellectually or religiously, but also socially, politically, and economically. Now, I will speak about waves of transformation and the historical experience of South Asian Shia Muslims. The modern history, trajectory, and journey of Shia Islam in South Asia have experienced various transformative periods of renewal, reorientation, and reformism, which I describe in this article as waves of formation and transformations. For the sake of analysis, I divide the modern history of Shia Islam in South Asia and Britain into 4 different waves of formation and transformation with respect to their content, impact, and outreach among people. Shia Islam and Shia activism in Pakistan have already been discussed using the terminology of waves and transformation in the insightful work of Simon Fuch, a Cambridge University scholar. I would engage with similar pattern of analysis of Shia history and extend the scope of analysis over Shia Islam in South Asia and continuity of these waves in Britain. The arrival and influence of Usuli ulamas. Now, people sitting here would know more than me, because I don't know a lot about the content of Akhbari tradition and Usuli tradition. However, for those who don't know, there are two intellectual traditions within Shia Islam, Usuli tradition and Akhbari tradition. So what we see in Iran today is predominantly an Usuli tradition of practicing Shia fiqh and Shia Islam. So I would engage with, so the arrival in India of Usuli ulama from Persia and Iraq in late 18th century corresponds with the prospering transnational religious and trading networks between India and Persia. Beneficiaries of these economic networks were traders, importing and exporting between two countries, and religious scholars traveling from shrine cities in Iraq, Persia to India and backward. Famous Shia scholar of Indian origin, Sayyid Dildar Ali Nasirabadi, traveled to shrine cities in Iraq and adopted an Usuli stance after his exchange with ulamas in shrine cities. He made huge impact on his return to Awadh, although his command of Shia religious scholarship, theology, and jurisprudence was never acknowledged by local ulamas who were established in Najaf and Karbala because of his Indian origins. While the first wave made, and as we were discussing with Sheikh, unfortunately, his intellectual contribution was not accepted by established Arab and Iranian scholars, and equally were rejected by Indian or Hindustani scholars in Lucknow and Lahore and Delhi, because he was coming up with a new outlook on how to study and practice Shia Islam in daily lives. While the first wave, it was the first wave when Shia scholarship entered in intellectual form to the Awadh court. While the first wave made an effort to cultivate Shia ritual performance under Persian influence in North India, the second wave came when the descendants of Awadh rulers started donating generous amount of money for the maintenance and development of shrine cities in Iraq, and provided patronage to Shia ulama in Iraq and Persia. During the second wave of philanthropy and artistic aesthetic promotion of Shia ritual performance in North India, the shape of Shia Islam in court at Lucknow, the capital of Awadh state, became a model to follow for small population in other regions of South Asia. The third wave is that of migration of South Asian Shia Muslims from Awadh region as a result of partition of Hindustan in 1947. When mostly educated middle-class Shia Muslims, mainly from North India, Lucknow and Delhi, migrated to Pakistan and ended up settling in Karachi. This group then undertook a further migration from Pakistan to Western countries in 1960s, mainly to Britain in 1960s, and it continues 70s, 80s up till today. The migration of Shia communities has always been instrumental in creating and establishing transnational networks of Shia scholars, traders, and families. So this brings a new opportunity for economic, political, and religious alignment within the community. For South Asian Shias, both experience of migration in the later half of 20th century shaped new realities of representation and identity at national and international level. During this third wave of Shias in North India lost the robust influence of middle classes and on local polity. So after 1947 partition, North India was deprived from the vibrant influence of intellectual power of Shia Muslims who were middle classes, who were government officers, and who were people of influence. They left North India and came to Pakistan. So in a way, North India somehow was feeling the vacuum of absence of a large number of educated and influential Shia families. And while they were, and it is not only North India, I mean, Shia Muslims from all over the India, they migrated to Pakistan in 1947. During this third wave of Shia Islam in North India lost the robust influence of middle class on local polity and representation due to migration, and Shias who did not or could not migrate then politically collaborated with right-wing Hindu parties who did not traditionally have the support of Sunni Muslims. So this was the strategy of Shia Muslims in North India, that some of them opted to vote even today for BJP in opposition to Congress, because majority of Sunni Muslims to have more influence in North India and Delhi and Lucknow would vote for Congress. In Pakistan, Shias have to regroup in newborn Islamic state with an apparent Sunni outlook and adjust to being the minority sect. The third wave resulted in the emergence of transnational networks of Shia Muslims of South Asian background, particularly in London. Popular speakers from India and Pakistan started visiting Britain to deliver sermons and recite at the Majalis. These no-vice transnational networks of South Asian Shias in London experienced a major shift in their role and function after the 1979 Iranian Revolution, Islamic Revolution. And that brings us into the fourth wave of transformation within Shia Islam. Interestingly, the fourth wave originated from Iran after the revolution. It has significantly influenced Shia Muslim of South Asian background in Britain as well as in South Asia. I would argue more in Britain than in South Asia. The post-revolutionary fourth wave brought with its new processes and synergies of collective actions for Shias of South Asian background living in London, what I call the emergence of Shia globalism among diasporic communities all the way from Australia to Britain and North America. And the public assertion of their identity as an alternative ummah, particularly after a new political climate of post-9/11 charged Western world in which we live today. The fourth wave has revived the same dilemmas for South Asian Shias in London as those brought by the first wave when Mughal Emperor Humayun brought first wave of clergy from Persian Empire to Delhi. What are those dilemmas? Standardization and reformation of ritual commemoration practices, excommunication of so-called deviant elements, and formation of central religious authority. Explaining the history of Reformation by analyzing it through waves of South Asian Shia Islam, it can help us understand the critical events among diasporic communities and their impact on both religious interpretation by scholars and personal subjectivities of followers. However, investigating Shia Islam in global metropolis like London informs about new actors onto the Shia religious landscape and juxtaposes them to London-based South Asian Muslims. What was not possible to explain during the historical analysis of first three waves of reformation in South Asia is the interaction of Iranian and Iraqi Shia individuals and networks in South Asia with South Asian ones on daily basis while they live in London. Now, in South Asia, it was the difference between Shias in Britain is that there is a interaction with Middle Eastern foundations, individual scholars on almost daily basis. And that was something which was missing back in history in North India and Delhi. So this is a recent phenomenon, and this is a result of globalization and resulting into Shia globalism more and more. But this opens up new debates on the emergence of Shia globalism and has been missing in the analysis of delimited Shia religious geographies in the available literature. Now, we will speak about impacts and accessibility of reformation and standardization. So what happened once the process of reformation starts? Not only within Shia Islam, because my PhD thesis talks about reformism with Deobandi, Barelvi, and Ahl Hadith Sunni traditions of South Asian origin. And the dilemmas are quite similar. There is no difference. Each of the above-mentioned four waves in Shia Islam in South Asia and Britain has their own peculiarities with respect to their content, impact, outreach, and acceptability among adherents. The second wave of philanthropic duration, however, can be viewed as the formative stage of modern-day 12er Shia Islam in South Asia. Now, this is important. The present form, content, delivery, and performance of Ashia Majlis today, which is popular and prevalent in India, Pakistan, partly in Afghanistan, and in Britain among South Asians. It was developed in Lucknow during the era of philanthropy and promotion of Shia aesthetics. It is then that the format and structure for delivery of Majlis, the appearance and demonstration of Tazia, and its procession in streets and bazaars, the popularity of Urdu Marsiya in poetry, the widespread approval of Majlis being delivered in Urdu language mostly, the introduction of Tabarra, women's participation in Majlis and other Shia gatherings, the religious and political identity of Shia Islam, all these elements and their structures were laid down during the second wave of philanthropy. It was late 19th century. It can be safely said that the debates about performing Ashura ritual in a politically and religiously correct manner are a continuation of the standardization process that started in Lucknow court during the second wave, whereby Usuli Shia ulama pronounced on permissibility or impermissibility of every performance. This standardization during the second wave was a result of Usuli ulama's effort to distinguish Shia Islam from Sunni Islam in South Asian context. And they did it gradually in order to legitimize their role and enhance their influence in Lucknow court. The regional expression of Shia Islam in South Asia, particularly in Delhi, Hyderabad, India, and in Punjab, Sindh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Gilgit-Baltistan, and Kashmir in Pakistan, and among South Asian Shias in London that I have observed in my fieldwork, is fundamentally a copy of the performative genres and standardization that developed in Lucknow court during second wave. So what happens today is not new, rather it is a continuity of the performance ritual that happened in Lucknow court. The regional expression continued to retain their own linguistic distinction in recitation of Marsiya before the main Majlis, but Urdu is an equally popular medium of Majlis delivery throughout South Asia and in its diaspora. Interestingly, even today in Punjabi districts, you will find that the Majlis begins with Punjabi and Sraiki, Marsiya and Majlis, but mainly in big Hussainiyas, the main delivery of Majlis, the last lecture, is mostly in Urdu language. And there is another development that's happening in Lucknow in late 19th century. So the anti-Shia expression was developed in Lucknow for the first time in the form of Madhat-e-Sahaba procession, which was carried out in Lucknow by Sunnis in reaction against the introduction of Tabara, a practice that was encouraged and incorporated by Majalis delivery by Usuli ulama from Persian background. And then the continuity of that Madhat-e-Sahaba procession can be viewed in Pakistani Western Punjab in the form of militant organization like Sipai Sahaba. So the evolution of both traditions can be traced back to the Lucknow court where Shia Islam is getting popularity. And then just as Shia Islam has become widespread and popular in Persia under the patronage of Shia Safavids, the same process occurred in South Asia under the tutelage of Lucknow court and the rulers of Awadh state. However, it can be argued that the presence of Sunni kingdom on all four sides of Awadh state in South Asia and the emergence of Sunni reformists after the decline of Mughal Empire restricted the influence of Awadh state to a great extent. And as we were speaking, the Nawab of Lucknow has to deal with his Sunni subjects as well. So he was not only ruling Shia subjects, he has to rule Sunni Muslim subjects along with Hindus and other religious traditions. The migration to Britain during the third and fourth wave of Shia Islam reformation in South Asia is a pivotal point in shaping up the features of British Islam as it is practiced today by Shia Muslims of South Asian background in London. A majority of Shias who migrated to Britain have their place of origin in South Asian areas like Karachi, Lahore, rural districts of North Punjab in Pakistan, and Lucknow, Delhi, Mumbai, and Hyderabad in India. Some Hazara Shias who migrated from Quetta in Pakistan and from Afghanistan participate in gatherings at South London, Hussainiya, where I conducted my fieldwork. While Urdu became a popular medium of Majlis delivery in Lucknow court because it was the language of elites there, in Britain, Urdu is necessary as a medium of Majlis delivery because of ethnic diversity of audience in London. Now it's interesting that the way Punjabi language is used before Majlis in Punjab region in Pakistan, English language in Shia Majlis in London is used in a similar way, where English will be used for the initial Majlis for maybe half an hour, And then the main majlis will happen in Urdu language. So that pattern, well, the only difference is that Punjabi language has been replaced by the English language. Modern day public expression of being Shia in Britain and contestation around it are indicative of the influence of South Asian Shia Muslims of the fourth wave of Shia Islam, which I mean post-revolutionary Iran, and its impact on Shia communities across the world. The fourth wave has repeated the story of reformism of South Asian Shia Muslims and the role they have played out during the first and second wave. Post-revolutionary generation of Shia ulama of South Asian background, educated and trained in Qum or Najaf, has been instrumental in standardizing the performative behavior of the adherents. The standardized behavior performance of being Shia is not limited to Ashura commemoration, but extends to the notion of how to be a true Shia Muslim and live a pious everyday life throughout the year. Now, this is something that I discussed in another paper, that how unlike Shia tradition in Pakistan, mainly, in Britain, the emphasis of being a true Shia throughout the year is very important to understand, where in Pakistan the emphasis is more on the Muharrum rituals and Ashura commemorations. So what happened in London? What happened in reformism in South London, Hussainiya? So efforts and initiatives toward the standardization of public performance and expression related to Ashura commemoration in accordance with the Iranian model have resulted into administrative and political advantage of one group of Shia South Asian background to take control on Hussainiyas. In this article or in this talk, the group that favors standardization of Shia rituals on Iranian model, I will be calling them the reformist group, for the purpose of analysis and to discuss the difference of them from others. The process of standardization is contested and challenged by another group who wants to keep the South Asian ways of Ashura commemoration and practice intact, and I call them old guards for the same purpose, so that we can analyze the situation. The reformist group have certain advantages at various levels over the old guard in supporting their claim about religious reinterpretation and control of South London Hussainiya. These advantages are the support of London-based Iranian foundations and other international global Shia intellectual organizations. What they help them is to announce what is the right Islamic public expression. The reformist group has the backing of fatwas from marjas, not only from Iran and Pakistan and Najaf, but from all over the world. Shia reformists exert pressure on adherents in London by maintaining that given the current global hostility towards Shias, particularly in Iraq, there is a dire need to speak with one voice and to be united under one leadership in order to take advantage of their position in London as global center, so that we can raise awareness about the issues in international media. Now, this reformist group is led by one person I will call Mr. Jaffer, the current administrator of South London Hussainiya. He migrated from South Asian background, and he has established his own strengths and has links with foundations, and he has an influence of local Shia polity as well. One of the gathering I attended in 2015, he was saying this to congregation. This place, this South, now feel the difference of first quote that I presented by one attendee of that Hussainiya and this quote by the administrator. The administrator is saying this place, South London Hussainiya, belongs to everyone who has love for Ahlul Bayt. Everyone is welcome here. Please make sure that you leave your ethnic prejudice of being an Urdu speaker, Punjabi, Sindhi or Pashtuns outside from the four walls of this South London Hussainiya. Once you are inside the building, show unity and uniformity. I know some people are very rigid about their forefathers' way of doing matam, but I will request them to be flexible. I must emphasize that we are not in India and Pakistan anymore. We have the right guidance from scholars who are knowledgeable and who can educate us how to conduct Ashura rituals. Now, Mr. Jaffer, the good thing about his speech is he never names and shames. people who happen to belong to other group, the old guards. And he never discourages them in public. He prays for unity and consensus among Shia Muslims and to have them the right leadership and become under one banner. Mr. Jafar believes that Shias are the only obliged to sort of have an oppositional stance to Sunni Muslim when it is required and becomes necessary and endanger the sanctity of Ahlul Bayt. But they don't have to do it in daily life when we live in a community where we collaborate with Sunni Muslims and non-Muslims. There are two main conflicts among Shia Muslims of South Asian background in London: how to perform matam on the eve of Ashura and how to take control over the Husainiya. Debates that are common among the members of rival groups are intellectual discussions over the definition of what is true Shia or what is the right way to be a Shia. However, these groups, both reformist and old guards, are fighting not only intellectual battle with each other on the right interpretation of Shia Islam, but also legal battle over the administrative control of South London Husainiya. The old guard are accustomed to perform severe forms of self-flagellation involving blades and knives that causes bleeding, which are popular in South Asian commemoration of Shia Islam. But the reformist will argue, well, this violates the health and safety laws, which are a requirement to keep everything intact in this premises by British authorities. As a consequence, there is a legal battle, and the court has issued barring order against the 50 members of Old Guard who are no longer allowed to enter into building of South London Husainiya unless they give a written undertaking that they will not perform severe self-flagellation and cause bleeding. Now, let's go back to analysis once again. Reputation of trans-historic and transnational patrons of Reformation in London and how they remind us what you rightfully said is nothing new. History and waves of transformation within South Asian Shia Islam are reproducing themselves in London. The legal battle and contestation among rival groups of Shia South Asian background in London have a parallel with another historical event. In colonial times, during the Awadh bequest, this is the philanthropic donation of Awadh elites for shrine cities in Najaf and Karbala by South Asian Awadh state. It was then Iraq and Persian Shia ulama who were petitioning against each other over allegations of financial corruption in the office of British colonial administrator in Iraq. So South Asians are donating money, and Iranian and Iraqi ulama are petitioning against each other so that they can basically come up with an understanding that they are the right recipient of the money. Now, post-colonial London-based Shias of South Asian background are going through a legal battle against each other in British court, and in which Iranian and Iraqi ulama are arbitrator in a dispute. Iranian Foundation, according to another person, said that this, who happened to be a member of Old Guard group, allegedly gave financial assistance to South London Husainiyas. The member of Old Guard is of the view that basically it is also interesting to note that during the Awadh bequest to Shrine City in 1857, a group of Arab Shias lodged complaint and sought assistance from Sunni Ottoman administrator in Iraq over the misuse of funds by their Shia co-religionists and jurists, while other Shias ridiculed him for seeking arbitration from a rival Sunni group to settle an internal Shia matter. In 2015, after almost 180 years, the Old Guard is ridiculing the reformist group in South London Husainiya and saying they are paying to a solicitor who happened to be of Salafi orientation. So here, a Shia group in London is ridiculing other, both are of South Asian background, and the reason of ridicule is they have hired a solicitor who is of Salafi orientation. 180 years ago, it was Iranian ulama accusing Arab ulamas that they are seeking help from Ottomans to have access to the funds. So there is a trans-historical pattern of contestation. But there is a wave of counter-reformation. Wherever there is reformation, there is counter-reformation. We have seen this in Sunni Islam. The more Deobandi tradition comes in the public forum, Barelvi tradition becomes more dominant, and it retains its authenticity and authority. And in present-day climate in Pakistan, we can see that Barelvi tradition has reasserted itself to reclaim the public sphere, which was occupied by predominantly Deobandi and Salafi tradition. The counter-narrative, and same happens in Shia Muslims in South London as well. The counter-narrative to Mr. Jafar claim for his reformist interpretation on Shia Islam and his administrative control to South London Hussainiya is given by another character I will call Mr. Akbar, who is the leader of Old Guards. Now, he said that he has been preaching the true Shia Islam after studying books and has all the knowledge. But whatever he does out of his love for Ahlul Bayt. And he is active and influential member, and he did Ashura procession. He has led Ashura procession for many years. All this was about to change when Mr. Jafar took over South London Hussainiya. And he was not in favor of performing Zanjir Zani or swear self-flagellation. Through Mr. Jafar's influential history among the Shia Muslim community and his link with local politics and religious elites, both in London and in Karachi, he was successful in lobbying against the swear form of Zanjir Zani. So he, along with other reformist members, went for a legal battle, and they accuse that this is against health and safety laws of British government. Old Guard group sort of defended their stance and challenged them. They lost initial legal battle. They went to next court. There, the reformist group says that swear self-flagellation harms children who are there to attend a religious ritual. And when children are brought into any legal dispute in this country, you know whom British government will favor. So a child's interest is pivotal. And the next legal round was also lost by Old Guard because it is issue of safeguarding children. And they were fined as well. In the meantime, some mutual friends intervened and reconcile both parties. They agreed to take the issue to prominent cleric in one of the Middle Eastern Shia Foundation in London. The reformist group wanted to take the issue to Iranian Shia Islamic Center. The Old Guard did not agree to that arbitration. They were of the point of view that arbitration at Iranian Islamic Center would not favor them. So the Old Guard believed that Iranian Foundation might not be objective or impartial, so they would rather go to another foundation. And then when they went at another foundation of Arab origin, he said that they were a bit ambivalent about giving us a clear guideline. So we were left to our own devices, and we were left to interpret Shia tradition in the way we felt it correct. And he said that the fatwa from Iran against Zanjir Zani, these people are against the custom of Zanjir Zani. They are enemies of Shia Islam. They want to crush the spirit of Shia Islam. And I will keep observing this custom even if the whole world turns against me. He told that he only considered one particular Arab marja a true representative of Shia Islam because that Arab marja favors self-flagellation and Zanjir Zani. So, in case of Mr. Jafar, who is leading Old Guards, he is fighting a battle of Karbala in London. And that's why I call my talk as Karbala in London. And picking and choosing of marja to support their theological and political position reveal another level at which marjas function in a cosmopolitan city like London is revealed to us. So, while they were denounced, please remind me when my time is up. So,
just a few minutes.
Yeah, just a few minutes. Okay, great. So the frustration and anger of old guard group after losing this legal battle, they are not happy, but they feel that they don't have any choice, as they have been going to South London Hussainiya for decades. They know everybody there. It gives meanings to their life. It is where they have a group of people whom they know. It is where they have developed their memories of British life after their parents or themselves migrated from Pakistan, and everything is taken away from them. So this doesn't make them very happy. But this talk has provided us a brief history of waves of reformism and standardization in Shia Islam, and how it has been experienced over past 2 centuries. Unlike Sunni Islam, which has a consistent political and social control of Islamic public sphere in South Asia in the form of Mughal Empire, that resulted in the emergence of local authoritative reinterpretations. Shia Islam was only able to flourish under short-lived dynastic kingdoms. The ethnographic data suggests that influence of 4th wave of transformation in Shia identity, post-revolutionary Iran, on South Asian Shia Muslims had a similar impact on Shia ritual performance to that of first wave that came with the arrival of Usuli Ulama with Emperor Humayun. It is evident that these waves of transformation of Shia Islam are not linear or solely Iran-centered. Recently, South Asian tradition of Zanjir Zani and performing matam by walking on fire too has been asserting itself and obtaining its legitimacy by some Arab marjas who come from Middle Eastern background and acknowledge this practice as an expression of love for Ahlul Bayt and repeat this practice. Another aspect of the contestation over being true Shia Muslim in London is a problematic issue of selecting a marja. So sometime if a marja does not, the fatwa of a marja does not translate with the political aspiration of one group, then suddenly the switching of marja, particularly among Punjabi Shia Muslims, is a common habit, which is no different to switching political allegiance in different political parties. As long as the decision is in their favor, the local practice in politics in Punjab would be, if the decision favors you, then it's a good decision. And same happens in religious landscape. The political and religious landscape is quite an imitation of each other. So there is one last thing that I would like to say, and that is most important as far as I understand. I may be wrong. These contestations of religious nature always have some other reasons. These religious contestations cannot be divorced from economic, political, and social realities of everyday life. The ethnographic account of members of both groups of South Asian Shias living in London, what I call reformist and old guard, present their personal understanding of what it is to be a Shia based on their experience and affiliations. Their personal understanding not only resonate with local concerns, but also converge and diverge with global trends of Shia Islam in 21st century. At the same time, the caste, brotherly bloc, and political and economic blocks or grouping becomes an influential factor in giving life to one particular group and reproducing its own reinterpretation of what is true and authentic practice. Thus, I will conclude here that history of South Asian Shia Islam is full of contestation, centered on the expression of individual agency, and London-based South Asian Shia Muslims are continuity to that tradition with their own local and global dynamics. When Mr. Akbar and his friend started performing self-flagellation privately in a new place, while they were denied permission to do it publicly in one of the South London Hussainiyas. Thank you very much.